comes rum coming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer. Send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there, over there, over there. Send the word over.
Hey everybody, this is Joshua Littrell. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Veterans for Cannabis podcast today. Today, I am your esteemed guest once again. It's actually a pretty exciting day for me because we're going to talk about something that was brought up on one of our previous podcasts that was a real eye-opener to us in the veteran community, and it just sent an absolute flame down my back and burnt me up when I was talking about it. But then it got a lot of different people in Congress really pissed off, if you will, about what was going on. And the Veterans Administration had to clarify some things on it. And what we're talking about is the VA was supposedly saying that they were not going to allow any veteran to get a home loan or a business loan, for that matter, if they were in the cannabis industry. Well, it didn't make much sense at all. And when we started doing some research behind it, there wasn't any clear guidance or guidelines indicating what our issues were, or if they were even going to allow us to do a home loan if we were in the cannabis industry, or were we going to be able to get a business loan either. And what I mean by that is when you go to apply for a loan, you have to put down what industry you're in, right? What's your job? And if you put down that you're a bud tender, or you work in a cannabis farm, or you are in extraction for hemp, they were, and when I say they, the Veterans Administration, were not approving those clients that were applying for a home loan that were in the cannabis industry. This was absolutely wrong. And it really, really, really burnt the industry up, because the industry had been essentially blackballed at that point in time by the VA saying that they were not going to allow any loans or any monies being loaned out to veterans that were in the cannabis industry. Well, why? They had absolutely no reason to do that. There was no policy. There was no guideline. There was nothing out there that said, hey, you can't loan to people who are in the cannabis industry, because it just didn't exist, although the VA was just flatly doing it, which was nuts to think about. So it's something that brought a lot of disinformation to Capitol Hill to start with. Secretary Robert Wilkie, who is our esteemed leader of the Veterans Administration, he suggested that a substantial number of veterans legally working in the cannabis industry were being denied home loans. All right. We all knew it was happening, but they couldn't find black and white information on it, other than there had been a couple of veterans that had come forward with their denial letter, and the denial letter had very vague implications of why they were denied, and they were saying combination of things and had to do with your industry that you were in as well. So veterans in the cannabis industry were being denied because the VA considered the cannabis industry incapable of being stable and reliable. Let's think about that for a moment. So we're talking about not being able to get a home loan because the VA considers the industry that you're in not stable and not reliable. And this is, let's see, last I checked, this is 2020. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're in the year 2020. And cannabis has been legal now for over a decade. It's been legal for much longer than that in the state of California. I think it was early 90s, 92, 93, when the proposition got passed to make medical cannabis legal out there. So we're talking about an industry that's been around for decades now. But let's just think about it from a standpoint of maybe it was only around and legal for the last 10 years or one decade, right? But to say that we're not a stable and reliable industry was an absolute factual lie. It was an inaccuracy, is what I oftentimes term it, when we're getting inaccurate information from the Veterans Administration, which was completely unfounded and unreliable information that they were basing their decisions on. So there was a story in Roll Call which first reported that the VA policy was that they were denying it because of the stability and reliability of the industry. It's pretty ridiculous. There was a letter that came out, and it acknowledged that the ambiguity under which the cannabis industry operates is unique, and that lawmakers fully understand the VA's resulting aversion to legal and financial risks. But it went on to say that denying veterans the benefits they've earned, however, is contrary to the intent Congress separately demonstrated in its creation of the VA benefit programs. Now, what does that mean? I know it's a word, a mouthful of all these different words that are kind of put together in this crazy functioning sentence, right? So what it means is that when the VA put together the VA benefit program, they didn't say it had to be on something that was going to be around or was a stable and reliable industry. All it said was that you had to have a job and a stream of income. That's it. And that's the way that Congress intended it to be. Their intent was that any veteran who served honorably, or even generally for that matter, got a general discharge, they could get a VA-backed home loan guarantee. So no questions asked, nothing about it whatsoever that would indicate that if you were not in a stable and reliable industry, that you couldn't get a home loan. So if you think about that, stable and reliable, what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of people in the oil and gas industry, right? That is something that has been uh, notoriously unstable and notoriously unreliable because of the ups and downs and swings in the market. I think right now you're looking at a market where we're in July of 2020, and just a couple of months ago, oil was actually, they were trying to pay you to buy gasoline, which I know doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's really, oil is sold in barrels, right? Those barrels were at a negative price point, meaning that they would have paid you to take those barrels of oil off of their hands. The oil hit an absolute bottom, rock bottom for that matter. So what are we talking about when we talk about stable and reliable? You look at the alternative fuels industry. We'll stick with fuels since that's what we're talking about with oil, right? We think about solar power, water power, wind generation, all those good things. Those are things that have been notoriously unstable and unreliable industries as well. What about contract workers? Any contract workers that's on a limited 1 year contract, that's stable and unreliable. So the fact that the VA tried to say that they were basing their decisions on the cannabis industry being incapable of being stable and reliable was absolutely sickening to most of us in the veteran community that we're seeing this happen, and it's disheartening because the VA needs to catch up to the times. And what do I mean by that? Well, I think you all know, our listeners around the country know, and around the world know that the Veterans Administration, they typically lag behind the general population in decisions that are made. And it's frustrating because the men and women that have served this country and served it honorably should be lifted up and held up to the highest esteem and highest regard, and should be taken care of in the most expeditious manner possible. But oftentimes the VA doesn't work in an expedient manner. So that's why we have to step up and punch them right in the face and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it needs to be corrected right now. So that's what we did. We had a rep, Catherine Clark. She's a Democrat from Massachusetts that first discovered the VA policy when one veteran wrote to her office asking for help after his home loan application was rejected. So had it not been for this one veteran that, had to basically contact his elected official to get the help that he needed to get a loan to buy a home, it's absolutely ridiculous. And the worst part about it was the VA hadn't issued any policies or guidance on the topic of backing a veteran's loan if they were in the cannabis industry, meaning that they were leaving the veterans with no way to clearly and readily understand whether their choice of legal employment in the industry could result in denial of benefits that they'd earn. And it's crazy to think that here you are, you have a man or a woman, a veteran man or a woman that is served their country, served them honorably, gotten a great job now. They're in a brand new burgeoning industry, something that has the ability to impact thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives around the world in a positive manner. And also, in the same breath, has negatively impacted millions of lives around the world because of the draconian drug war that we've all been faced with, right? So you got these veterans who are getting out. They're thinking that we're going into a great industry. It's a new burgeoning industry. Going to be able to get a home loan because I've got a job showing I'm making $150,000 a year. And, oh, it's great. They apply for a loan. Sorry. Can't approve that loan from the Veterans Administration because you're not in a stable and reliable industry. Pretty ridiculous. So we started shaking some trees and getting on the phone, sending emails, and making things happen. And lo and behold, the past year, basically, Catherine Clark, the one that I mentioned earlier out of Massachusetts, she's also gotten together with some of the other lawmakers that have really come together and formed this committee, essentially, and they've been pressing the VA on the difficulties that are faced in our veteran community of securing that benefit of having a home loan backed by the Veterans Administration. The one thing that is unequivocally ours that they cannot take away was our ability to purchase a home and have it backed by the VA, right? But they're taking that away. So Congresswoman, she got together with these other lawmakers and signed this letter, and they started circulating it around, and they sent it to Congress, and it got introduced as an amendment to resolve the issue. But while they were doing that, there was a report that was submitted to Congress last month that was obtained by Marijuana Movement, and I think you all know that we support them wholeheartedly. And Tom Angel, he leads the charge on making sure that the VA is held accountable when it comes to cannabis-related issues. But the VA said there is no policy on the books that calls for home loan denials due to employment at a cannabis business. What? Well, let me read that again. The VA said there is absolutely no policy on the books that says a veteran would be denied an application for a home loan because they're in a cannabis business. Instead, the department clarified that conflicting state and federal laws make it, and I'm doing my air quotes now, difficult to prove the stability and reliability of cannabis-derived income, which are key factors in determining loan eligibility. It's a bunch of legal BS is what it is when it comes down to it. So I can't say enough how upsetting this was to us in the veteran community. And I think you as the listeners too, you started making phone calls. You started sending emails. You started getting involved. And that's what we've asked you to do is it's that call to action. It's how can you help make this country a better place to live in? How can you help make this world a better place to live in? Well, the VA came back and they said that they are committed to working diligently to serve our nation's veterans by providing eligible veterans with home loan guarantee benefits. There is nothing in the VA statutes or regulations that specifically prohibits a veteran whose income is derived from state legalized cannabis activities from obtaining a certificate of eligibility for VA home loan benefits. However, given the disparity between federal and state laws on cannabis, determining whether such a veteran is able to obtain a loan has become a complex issue. So basically, they're trying to kick the can down the road, right? They don't want to make a decision on it, and they just flat don't want to back the veterans who are trying to get a home. They don't want to support those who have put their life on the line in defense of their freedoms. And when I say these are the men and women working at the Veterans Administration, which oftentimes is made up of veterans too. But the worst part about it is the ones who are making the decisions at the Veterans Administration are typically not veterans. And that is really, really, really frustrating when it comes down to it. That we'll have a lot of our brothers and sisters that are working at the VA that are trying to take care of our issues in the veteran community and really help us make this a better place to live, to be, and to just get along, right? But it oftentimes doesn't happen because those people who are making the decisions at the top are the ones who are not veterans. So it's really frustrating from our standpoint. But that's all right because you know what you did? You shook that tree. You started throwing those ice buckets and ice balls and lobbing the proverbial nasty words to Congress. And we finally got a response from the VA. Now, that response is not exactly the response that we were looking for, but you know what? We'll take it.